flower friends. It is your friend in flowers, Lisa Mason Ziegler. And it's Wednesday, y'all, so that means it is Ask a Flower Farmer. And what does that mean? That means that you can ask me any question, and I'll do my best to try to answer it that has to do with cutting flowers, growing cut flowers, flower farming business, harvesting, conditioning, planting, cool flowers, which is, we're knee deep, right, y'all, in seed starting cool flowers, and, you know, whatever you've got. Now, we're simulcasting, so I'm on TikTok and I'm on Instagram. So if you're in Instagram, you can post your question down in the bubble with the question mark. I see we already have some over there. That way I don't lose the question as all the people's names are scrolling past. So post your question down in the bubble in the question mark, down at the bottom of your screen over there on Instagram. And if you are in TikTok, in the comments, just put the question mark at the beginning and then just type your question in, and I will do my best to try to answer as many as possible. And so I'll just bring you guys up to date on what's happening here on the farm. So, you know, it's mid-September, so we are knee deep in starting cool season hardy annuals. I mean, we have a few thousand seedlings going in our grow room, from Rudbeckias and Billy Balls to snapdragons and scabiosis. I'm just thinking there are just yarrows, just so much beautifulness that will be blooming for spring. So if you don't know what cool flowers are, Cool Flowers is actually the title of a book that I wrote about 12, 13 years ago. And it's about a family of flowers that are cool season hardy annuals. Some of the sweetest spring bloomers, y'all. Sweet peas, snapdragons, bells of Ireland, poppies, just some of the most coveted spring flowers in early summer that we just typically don't plant them at the right time, and that's why we don't have success. And so that's what we're really involved in right now, actually in starting just tons of seeds. And, you know, so how do we know when to start everything? Friends, I have to tell you about something that's coming out this winter that we've been working on it here. Every Wednesday, my sister is here on the farm with me, and it's called Maker Day. It means we're making stuff. And so it's where we make content. And for the last few weeks and for the next couple of weeks, we are working on a huge project, and it is the Big Calendar Journal. If you've read any of my books or taken any of my courses, I have written about the big giant calendar that literally runs my flower farm. I sit down during winter and I fill it all out for the season. I write in all of my succession planting windows. Then based on that, I back up and make my seed starting lists, and it just what keeps my flower farm running. That's why we have this continuous, constant supply of why do I have all of these beautiful, brand new cosmos that were just cut? I cut those last night before the rain. Why do we have fresh crops coming in? Because I knew I was supposed to start them back in, I guess that was probably in July. So the big calendar, now if you are in Instagram, you can actually comment calendar in the comments and it'll DM you the link. But here's the deal, friends. So it's going to go on pre-sale October 1st. And for the month of October, it'll be pre-sold. And all the pre-sale purchasers are going to get a special invitation to a free workshop that comes with the purchase during pre-sale. And it's going to be me and you filling out that calendar together for us to find your planting window dates. Then you'll be able to easily figure out your seed starting dates. Friends, it's going to change your world. This calendar is literally what made me the amazing three season outdoor flower farmer that I am today. Because not only was it easy to figure out, once I had the formula, and all the steps are on the calendar, y'all. There's a guide on the first page that you're going to be able to fill out. and then plug in that calendar and make it for you. And you want to know the best part, for me, especially now because I'm 15 years into using this calendar, is that in like my planning month, whether that's December or January for you, I pull out all my past calendars, I make a pot of coffee, and I spend like a morning reviewing, looking back. I put all my calendars out, I open them all to January, and I look at all the cool flowers that I started for very early spring. I discover so much stuff that I've forgotten through the years, and I mark this year's calendar, and then I flip them to February, and then to March, and then to April. Y'all, I'm telling you that this calendar has become the most powerful resource that I have ever made. I think, I've written several books, but this is different. And so I have nothing against spreadsheets. I use spreadsheets, but let me tell you what's special about a paper calendar. First off, it's huge, right? It hangs on the door of this building where everybody can see it, and I can stop and just take a look at it no matter how hot and tired I am to see what's coming up. What are we supposed to seed start this week? What are we supposed to, I put all kinds of details on there. Did you all start your cut flower kale in the middle of July? I did. Mine'll be awesome for Thanksgiving. Why did I remember to start it? Not because I think of it, because it's on that blame calendar, y'all. So, if you are not on Instagram, you can just go to my website, thegardenersworkshop.com, and get on the wait list. That just simply means that we will send you the email the minute the pre-sale opens. I don't think that we can sell out of the first printing, but the first printing actually gets the workshop during the pre-sale mode. And I want you guys to be a part of that. So, enough about that. I have questions. So, if you're joining us late, this is the place where you can submit questions, and I'll do my best to try to answer them, okay? So, let's see what we got over here. So Southern California shady area where plants or greenery, ferns or flowers. So I'm not sure what the question is. If you're wondering what plants or greenery, ferns or flowers. So, the thing that I would do if I was you, I don't know if you even have a frost date, but I would literally put in a search engine shade perennials. Some of my favorite shade perennials that we also cut are hellebores, which are Lenten roses that grow in deep shade. Because what happens is I started in a only shady garden. So I understand that it's hard to resist buying flowers that need sun, and trying to grow them in your shade. It's pretty torturous for them and for you. So I would definitely do a search and say, shade-loving perennials and annuals. And there's not as many good cut flowers as you would hope. Because what happens with cut flowers, typically the annuals are the ones that we rely on. You cut them and they regrow and they regrow and they regrow. A lot of that action doesn't really happen in the shade as much because they just don't get as much sunshine, right? But that's what I would do, is I would search and see there's tons of ferns and greenery. I grow Japanese anemones in the shade. They're beautiful. There's several different ones of those. Virginia bluebells, which pretty sure they grow in California, even though Virginia's in their name. Bleeding hearts, hellebores, so there's a lot to choose from. I think you just have to find out what they are. And I would also suggest to you that you want to look online at some of the suppliers, because a lot of times, I don't know why there aren't nurseries that specialize in shade gardening, because you know what, friends? Most people have shade. That's the biggest challenge. That was my issue before I moved where I am now. So I would go online and just do some searching for that. Jenny, can you remind us which cool flowers you always start first because they take a little longer? I know you've mentioned Rudbeckia. So yeah, definitely I have 9 trays of Rudbeckia going. They were the first seedlings we started. So what Jenny's referring to is I started Rudbeckias, Black-Eyed Susans, and before anybody wonders, yes, there are some varieties of Rudbeckias that are perennial. We grow the hardy annual versions, meaning that these varieties are typically not long-lived perennials. And you can see all the varieties that I start on my website, thegardenersworkshop.com. Go to our shop, go to seeds, go to the cool season seed category, and all those are the same ones that I grow. So you can see which ones those are. So yes, Rudbeckias are the first one. And I tell you another one that can be sluggish is Sweet Williams. Depending on the conditions, they really like it cooler than most people give them. And who isn't slow, the last cool flower that I start are sweet peas, because we only start them a couple weeks before they're going to be planted. And in fact, I don't start them indoors anymore. We actually set the trays, 2-inch blocks, by the way, 2-inch soil blocks for sweet peas, and we put them out on the carport, hoping for like 50 to 55 degree temperatures, and they sprout slower, but we get 100% germination, no soaking of the seeds, which I used to soak, and I used to put them in my grow room on a seedling heat mat, the cool flower method way, but Bailey, a farmer Bailey Plugs, convinced me not to do that, and I've had success the other way for years, but this way I think is better. They stay shorter, so that works well. So Rudbeckia, Sweet William, just yarrow, and feverfew, believe it or not. I'm doing a big old show about feverfew tonight. The 8 o'clock shopping show, the live gardening show tonight in the shop app is going to be about feverfew. Feverfew is a silent hero in the garden, and I grow several varieties, and I'll be talking about them tonight, but they can be kind of slow too. All right, Hayden's in Zone 9A, Southern Louisiana. We still have highs in the 90s and lows in the upper 70s. I want to start snaps and Nigella, but I can only start seeds outside. I fear I'm too late. Would October be too late to start these cool season annuals? So really, Hayden, it 100%, when is your first frost day? That's where your target comes from. 6 to 8 weeks before your first fall expected frost. Mine is mid-November. And so we target to plant the 1st of October, mid-September to the 1st of October. And because fall has tended to stay longer these days, we actually don't even target until October 1st to plant. So I think you're fine. And if you're in 9A, I would guess that your frost date is much later. So I would say for you to be planting in November would probably be pretty okay. And let's just say if it does dip, if you plant transplants today into say 50 degree weather, 60 degree weather, whatever, and then all of a sudden it drops to 28 or 30, which I'm not sure you even do that, hoop and row cover it, just to help it. You want your plants to get established in warmish, not hot, but warmish conditions. And if you lose those suddenly, hoops and row covers, that's why I tell people, I have enough hoops and row covers that I can do my whole blooming farm, because I've been caught without row covers. I mean, I can remember several years ago, we don't usually go into single digits, and 15 is our average low, right? Well, we were going into singles, and I was so freaking out. I mean, that's when we were in high production. I was so afraid to lose stuff, and I got caught. I didn't have enough row cover to cover everything, because that's just a swing. And it can damage if it doesn't kill the plant potentially that I was growing, because I was only growing for my zone and we dropped below my zone low. So have protection on hand if you need it, but I think you'll be fine. Even though I know better than anybody that weather is crazy now, I still focus on what is my first average fall frost. Okay. What is 6 to 8 weeks before then, right? Even though while I would not plant into 90 degree weather unless I had to, Keep your eye on your goals and then adjust a little bit. And the other thing I will say, for us, the saving grace has been is I now use our insect netting on hoops pinned up to make what I call sun caps. And that really cools down the bed below it. Unlike row cover, it does not trap as much heat and it allows more light through. So, you know, for those of us in the South that were worried about overheating cool flowers, that's a good solution. A lot of my cool season flowers are still in bud stage. So wait a minute, she must be in Australia? A lot of my cool season flowers are still in the bud stage. Our summer was very cold this time and it's already over. If I put a tunnel over them, the low tunnel could they possibly survive till next spring? So I think what you're saying is that you planted cool season hardy annuals this past early spring and they still have not come to fruition, right? And they're small. I don't know whether they will survive or not. I mean, you never know anything until you try it. But for me, if we ever have a bed that struggles, which it sounds like maybe they struggled, whether it's because you didn't get warm enough or whatever, is that I typically find they're not going to stop struggling just because I leave them there longer. So you'll have to really make that decision that maybe it's a nutrition thing, maybe there's a drainage issue, they don't drain really well. So that's just really hard to say, and it'd be helpful to know where you are. But yeah, sorry, I tend to say start over. I am very quick to ditch a bed and start over because, as I mentioned, it's just easier to start from scratch and do all this, know that all the steps are covered and have better results maybe. All right. Brittany, if I direct sow giant poppies 6 to 8 weeks before first frost, how big should they get before going into winter? If something goes wrong, could I try them again in late winter or do they need the cold period to bloom? 9A. So they do not need a cold period. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get seeds to sprout and grow outside during winter. You know, seeds, even cool season seeds, that's why we plant them 6 to 8 weeks before first frost, need warmth to know to sprout and then to do vegetative growth. Those two things don't typically happen when it's cold outside. So it's like fall or never in my book. I've had no luck. I've not even tried. I know people that have tried. Don't even try to germinate them inside. So you plant them and you're looking at a 6 to 8 inch. So poppies, the giant poppy pods don't really grow up. They grow big leaves. And you're looking for leaves about that long probably. But yeah, so if you plant them 6 to 8 weeks before, you plant them according to directions, you water them every day till they sprout, you should be good to go, Brittany, I think. So let me just scroll over here. Here's a question. I grew some poppies in zone 10 last year with direct sowing, but only a few made it to flowering. So Jade says that, so Jade, I don't know. I grew some poppies in zone 10 last year, direct sowing. So Jade, certainly the best time you're really south in zone 10, certainly sowing them, I would guess, in probably November, while it's still warm days. You want to sow them 6 to 8 weeks before your coolest time in winter, which you probably don't even freeze. They don't require a cold treatment, but they sprout and grow better in cool conditions. So that's when you want to get them in the ground 6 to 8 weeks before your coolest time in zone 10. So I hope that helps. Will the sulfur Cosmo tree that I planted from seed and too rich a soil bloom? You know, I'm sorry, I know nothing about Cosmo trees. Sorry about that. That is definitely something that I would put in a search engine, y'all. Everything, you know, I mean, you can't value, you put it into a search engine and then try to really go towards the websites that might end in .edu. That's a university, edu, education, right? Check that out. Just watched your podcast on ornamental kale. I've germinated some seeds in the shade, zone 10. So that's Jade again. Good, sounds good. Glad you're watching that. So yeah, we have over on my YouTube channel, there's a YouTube video of cut flower kale. And I think we're getting ready to do another installation of that. So I don't see any other questions over on YouTube. All right, so I did see some questions in the comments here on Instagram. Kathy, direct seeded my larkspur in zone 6A a couple of weeks ago. First frost date is mid-October, so mid-October, that's about right. They are germinating now, yay, yikes. Yippee, do they need row cover over the winter? So you're in zone 6A, I don't know, I'm looking for my book. You know, y'all, you would think that writing all these books and doing all this flower farming for all these years, I would know these things by heart. But, you know, I used to memorize a lot of stuff. But here's the bottom line. We don't have to memorize anything, especially when you have somewhere to look. And so larkspur is winter hardy to 0 degrees in the winter. And I don't know what zone that is. I actually think that might be zone 5. So it should not need, for cold protection, this is my book, y'all, Cut Flower Handbook. And I will tell you, this book and the big calendar, you will be a stellar grower in a year. I'm telling you. You'll be on point. So we use lightweight row cover, which is Ag 19, which is the lightest. It allows the most light in and the most water in, which is what you want, so you don't have to provide those things. We use row cover not because our plants need it to survive winter. It just enhances. Think about how much better your seedlings will be when they're coming out of winter if they had a little windbreaker on all winter, that they didn't get so much wind whipping. So we do typically, once temperatures drop into the low 20s, I typically put my row covers up. Not because it's going to kill them, the cold, but because it's just I'm in a really windy site. And also we have deer and golden retrievers and rabbits that graze, and that helps to keep them off of that. So row cover can enhance, but it's not required. And I wouldn't just put it up. You don't want to overheat underneath there, and you want your plants to go dormant during winter, right? But if you keep them too warm, that won't happen. So you don't have to, but I find it's really, really beneficial, Kathy. So hope that helps. I'm looking, I saw another question over here. So y'all put your questions. You mentioned Billy Buttons. Are they hardy annuals? I'm in England. Should they be overwintered in an unheated greenhouse or outdoors? So let's look that one up, Phoenix Flowers in England. So this actually, the Cut Flower Handbook, which is available on the Big A, even in England, was written with temperatures, not U.S. hardiness zones. So you will know all of this. There's 41 different cool flowers, 104, featured in this book. And I will tell you that England is one of the places that can grow so many cool season hardy annuals and fall plant them. So, Billy Balls, it's Craspedia, is winter hardy to 10 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 12 Celsius, which I guess is what you do, right? So it's right here in the book. Each featured flower has its own growing facts. And so you would fall plant, I don't know what your winter lowest temperature is, but I'm guessing maybe that you can fall plant. And why fall plant? And you can fall plant outdoors. So we don't do anything in greenhouses. I don't have any Hooper greenhouses. So all of my talking is about growing outside in a garden, right? And so the point and the benefit of you fall planting is that you plant in the fall, and those little plants get all winter to build a great root system, so at the first crack of spring, they are ready to hit the ground running, versus what most people do is plant them in the spring. They have to get established and grow on the top and grow stems all at the same time. We grow 36-inch tall billy balls, and that's because they're so well established. That's the cool flower concept, y'all. That is the whole reason that whenever a flower is winter hardy, meaning it'll survive your winter lowest temperature, you should always fall plant it. You can plant again in very early spring, which is the second planting window. Or let's just say you live in zone 4. We have a lot of Canadians that are up in Alberta in just deep snow load. So most of them don't fall plant, but they're very early spring planting. They can plant cool season hardy annuals, which are cool flowers, so much earlier than they could any warm season annual, right? So there's just a huge benefit. And it's the flowers. I mean, we're talking sweet peas and snapdragons and bells of Ireland. I mean, Iceland poppies, y'all. Their name should tell us Iceland. I think they're winter hardy to zone 5, which I think is -10 Fahrenheit, winter temperature. So I know it's awkward, and that's why, you know, I just stumbled upon this little bit of information like 30 years ago when I was reading the first book. And then once I started investigating old gardening books, I didn't think this up, y'all. Our grandmas did this. I started investigating. It's like there's a whole slew of cool season hardy annuals that we can. Did you know that Status is a cool season hardy annual? I tried growing that like it was a warm season annual for so many years. I always had little short stems. Now I grow Status that's over 30 inches tall. Why? Because I fall plant it, y'all. Or if I can't fall plant it, if I wasn't winter hardy enough for me, I'd very early spring plant it, which is 6 to 8 weeks before your last spring frost, when most people aren't even thinking about planting a darn garden, right? And that is just the other thing that this big calendar journal allows you to capture this information and put it on a document that you're going to use year after year to build your next season's calendar, to tweak, to add new flowers, to drop ones you didn't want to grow anymore, to make notes. And we do it, you know, I encourage you there's a step-by-step guide. It is a cut flower seed starting and planting guide, right? It's got all my instructions right on the front page, which is 20 inches wide and 30 inches long, y'all. It's giant. And that makes each day in the monthly calendars so big, 2 inches by 4 inches, you have actual room to write information that's just going to guide you through the season. Once you get busy, you start cutting flowers, planting flowers, weeding flowers, selling flowers, delivering flowers. It's all figured out when you complete the calendar during the down season. And that's why it's like, y'all, buy it through the pre-sale. It's $39.95, by the way, $40. It'll be the best $40 you ever spent. If you have the book, you have the calendar, and there'll be a PDF worksheet that goes with the calendar that'll have seed starting, you know, how far in advance to start a seed. You'll have everything you need to just sit down and count. That's what it comes down to, y'all, counting back. When do I plant? Okay, I plant here. How long does it take that seed to grow up? Okay, I count back those numbers. And it just fuels the whole fire, and it makes it so simple, y'all. So if you're an Instagram, comment calendar, and we'll DM you the link. Otherwise, visit thegardenersworkshop.com, search calendar once you get there. Get on the wait list, which simply means that we will email you the day that the pre-sale opens. And that way you'll get in on the pre-sale, and that way you get the invitation to join me for a free live workshop of us going through. There's 8 succession planting windows on the calendar guidelines. And I'm going to go through every one of them to help you figure out when yours is or not and what you need to do. It's going to be great, y'all. I'm so excited about it. Remember tonight in the live shopping show at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, I'm doing a fever, y'all. Feverfew is an underused flower. And I'll be sowing some seeds tonight to show you how to do it. And just talking about feverfew and demonstrating some stuff. And I hope you're going to join me there. If you don't have our phone app, just go to your phone's app store, search Gardener's Workshop. It's free, and download the Shop app, and you can watch replays in there, and you can watch the live. You can join the live show, and I do a little Q&A at the end for some of the questions, y'all. All right, my friends, till we meet again. Ciao.